Hi, it's Mary, a traditional Chinese medicine tutor and an acupuncturist in Canada.
Analogy method in TCM.
Here, I would like to introduce a concept called analogy method. This method used widely in TCM study. We mentioned many times TCM is looking for the syndrome. The treatment is based on the syndrome differentiation. So the syndrome is the root of the problem. What's the root? Root is something covered by the signs and the symptoms. You need to look through the signs and the symptoms to find out the root of the problem. In this approach, we pay attention to the signs and the symptoms. The signs and symptoms, kind of like a picture, give you an impression. By this impression, you compare with the rules of Yin-Yang or 5 elements to see whether or not there's a common or similarities. From there, to make a conclusion. For example, this picture. If you look at this picture, so what do you get from there? What's your guess? Yeah, funeral. It's a funeral. There's no word to say it's a funeral. You even didn't see they are crying, but you get the idea. Very likely this is a funeral, it's not a party. The reason is because you know what funeral look like. Then you make this comparison. The thinking in your brain is not by logic. It's kind of like you skip. By looking at the sign and symptoms, you get the conclusion. Go like this, not by calculation. This method, we call it the analogy method. The analogy method is to compare the image, sign and symptoms, which is a collective presentation of individual signs and symptoms with the things we know, the characters of Yin-Yang, the characters of 5 elements, or characters of each zang or 4 organs. By making this connection, you get the conclusion and understand what's the root or the syndrome of this problem. This thinking method of classification and deduction of the 5 element theory follows the rules of first observation. By observation, you get a sign and symptoms, you get a picture. By observation, you get the sign and symptoms, you have an image in your mind. Using this image to compare with the knowledge, with the rules of the Yin-Yang and the 5 element system, then you find out the root or the rules of the problem. This method is based on direct observation. Although it has the characteristics of analogical reasoning, it is valuable in that it combines and interacts with all things in the universe to form 5 structure systems, creating an orderly, balanced, and vibrant life pattern map. The whole idea saying this is by this kind of a method of analogy method, we know how to categorize everything in the universe into the category of the 5 elements or Yin-Yang. The key is to make a comparison with the characteristics of each things and the phenomenon.
It's quiz time.
For example, like people has equivalent like Parkinson disease, moving like this, moving. When they are moving, you see, oh, it's moving. What is that? The 5 elements, which one? Which element it associated with? If you see the shaking, uncontrollably shaking of the hands, which element you are attributed to? If you see the shaking of the hands, in the 5 elements, it's more related with the wood. Wind, of course, associated with the trees, with the wood. When wind blows, the trees will shaking. By making this comparison, the shaking of the hands It is the wind. It is the internal wind. And the wind will be associated with the wood system. You look at the wood, you look at the shaking hands, that's the phenomenon, that's the picture. You make this comparison, the picture with the nature of the wood, so you categorize the shaking hands is the wood system has a problem, and the wood system is associated with his liver. If you find my video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe to it, and share it with others. See you in my next video. All the best!